Hello there, and welcome to Arcadia Founder. Today, we're going to be doing something a little bit different. Today, I am going to be speaking directly from the heart. This video will be much less scripted than my previous videos, and it will be purely emotional and a journey of my story from why I built Arcadia, for the vision, the values, the hope behind it, and what I want it to be able to do for the world, and why I want it. Why am I making this video today? This is personal. This is about why Arcadia matters, not just to me, but to the wider world, about what it means for the future and what I would like it to mean for the future. Arcadia itself was built to be a modular, piece by piece, you can put it into any sort of system that already exists today. It's meant to slowly evolve systems, meant to make things better than what they are. It's an interesting story, and I kind of just made it because I wanted to see if I could. I was watching the news one day and sat back and decided I wanted to make something. See if I could actually do it. I wanted to believe in myself and see if I could use my innate ADHD and innate craziness, my own internal storm, and see if I can make something out of it. What was the spark that started Arcadia? Well, it was a moment of disillusionment. It was just after I finished up college. I was waiting for my summer job to start up, and I was sitting there with 2 weeks of free time, sitting there and thinking to myself, what could I do with my free time? I was watching the news, seeing the authoritarianism rampantly growing south of the border, and I was worried for the future. I was worried for my future. I was worried for the future of my family. I was worried for the future of the people that I care the most about. And I thought to myself, can we build something better? Can I use my innate storm in my head and make something out of it? I thought to myself, authoritarianism doesn't work. All it does is centralize power in one figure, and eventually when that figure dies, the system falls apart. Democracy, it looks amazing on paper, but it leaves too much wiggle room. It leaves too much to be desired, and capitalism itself is the only reason why it works long term is because it's based around one dark side of society. There's one thing that can be said about humans. There's one thing that can be said about people. When things get tough, goodness tends to go out the window. When things are good, goodness thrives. That's why basing a society on the negative facets of human emotion and the negative facets of humanity is necessary and needed. But it doesn't work long term because over time the system learns that it can siphon the most out of people when the system is broken and when they're fighting each other and when everything is bad. Then goodness goes out the window and people are much more likely to care more about what's directly in front of them and not think about the future. It's a sad truth, but it is true. And I wanted to see if I could make a system where it supports every facet of humanity, the good and the bad, because humanity isn't just all good. Humanity isn't black and white. Humanity isn't all good. Humanity isn't all evil. The worst person can do good. The best person can do evil. That is a fact. And no matter what, we need to make a system that supports humanity in all of its glory and all of its shame, and all of its good and all of its bad. Because humanity, it's a cliche for saying this, humanity isn't black and white. It is all different sorts of shades of gray. And we need to support every last facet of that because we need to make it all times be somewhat good times. That way, human goodness can flourish and thrive. What did I believe was missing from the world? I looked around and I saw people how homeless. I saw people lynching everything. I saw people with most money doing the littlest amount with it. I saw people doing exactly what they want, and then I saw people doing exactly what they need. I I saw the disparity between the classes. I saw the top 1% thriving and living off the backs of the other 99. And I saw a quote, a political quote, where it's like, I think it was from The Bug's Life, and it was like, we need to keep those ants in line. It's not about the food, it's about keeping those ants in line because we are inherently weak. We cannot thrive, we cannot exist when those ants see what it is that we do. We need to ensure that the system is broken so that we can continue our way of life. It's a sad truth, but it's true. Access by design, not accident. We need to make a system that supports everyone fairly because we need to. Looking at it from a capitalist point of view, we need to extract every last bit of value there is out of people. And the best way to do that isn't by making a system that actually extracts the value from them. It's making a system where those people feel free to give that value freely. Because when times are good and things are nice, people are much more free and much more creative and much more expressive and much more happy in general. And with that, they don't just extract value in the form of physical or monetary. They extract value in the form of art, in the form of science, in the form of intelligence, in the form of education, and all of those things. They extract value that way. We need to normalize the value that we gain from the populace, not just physical or emotional, but intelligence and equity and all of these things. We need to do it for our future. We need a republic that adapts with the people, not a republic that holds them back. We need a future for everyone, the old and the young. And we need to make it together. Because if it's just one person making it, then there's no real point to it. Because he or she or they or them don't have everything. They don't know everything. It's a fact of truth. It's a fact of the world. One person cannot possibly know every facet of humanity. Because that one person isn't every facet of humanity. I personally am trying my best to understand every point of view. But it's just not possible. Because that would mean that I would have to personify 8 billion people. I don't know anything. I don't know any other language besides English and a little bit of French. I was in French immersion for a while. I don't know anything about other parts of the world. I might do research online, but that's through my narrow view. That's through my narrow window, my narrow port into the wider world. I have a life to live, and I cannot be dedicating myself entirely to learning every facet of humanity. That is why I need every facet of humanity to give input, to give meaning, to give value, because I can't do this alone. What matters most to me in a system of governance? Structural sovereignty, of course. We need a system that actively propagates the people's will without filtering it through politics or power or things like that, because then the top 1% is just going to tell everyone how the system works. What we need is a system where someone gives out an idea freely, and that idea is looked at meaningfully, and then possibly implemented if it is structurally viable, if it's sustainable, and if it has merit behind it. Anyone needs to be able to have a platform for where they can give an idea to better the system. Because one thing that I've learned as a human on this world is, as a person on this world, I like to distinguish myself and humanity because personal values and all that. I believe that people need a system that supports every part of them, the good and the bad. We need a system that gives a platform for where they can jump off and expand and give greatness to society. But I also believe we need a system that has safety nets so that when people fall and then when people have one bad day, it doesn't destroy them and it doesn't ruin their will. And to do that, I do believe we need digital rights and integrity. Digital rights and integrity are very important. There's not that much in society right now because society and the laws and the judicial system, it is meant to slowly adapt, but oftentimes it's gridlocked. Digital rights and integrity is the future, and we need a system that understands that. How do we balance liberty and security? Well, for me personally, I believe that everyone has a right to live with dignity, regardless of societal role or societal need. I believe the best way to do that is to separate what humanity needs, what people need, into two separate avenues. We need a system that supports our base survival resources, our housing, our food, our medical, our transport, all of these things. We need basic society that can support that. But I also believe we need a system where that supports our free will, our our innovation, our strengths as humans, because we are not just surviving. We need survival and life. We need freedom and choice. We need security and liberty, because otherwise the system is just going to slowly erode beneath our feet. And unfortunately, it will happen, no matter what. We need a system that changes with the people instead of holding them back. And I believe that system could be Arcadia. It looks really good on paper, but of course, that's on paper. We have no idea how it'll work in real life. Of course, there's Switzerland, that they have their referenda and their direct democracy, and it works somewhat well, but it's all still very paper-based, and they do multiple referenda per year, which brings to a lower turnout rate, which is sad, but it's true. And Switzerland isn't every other country. Switzerland is amazing. They are neutral, and they are probably one of the longest surviving countries in the world. How do we make sure Arcadia grows with the times, grows with the people, and grows with everything? Because government shouldn't hold us back. Government should prop us up. Government should support our basic needs and support our basic desires so that the rest of us can thrive. We need sunset reviews so that when a law that was signed into fact 10, 20, 30 years ago becomes irrelevant now, we don't have to wait for the judicial system to realize that it's no longer functional, no longer needed, and it comes to the floor, and people decide if it's still necessary or not, if it should be changed, if it should be updated. That should be structurally needed. We also need equity audits to make sure everyone is getting what they need. We need people that can look at the system as in its parts and see this isn't working. We need to update this. We need people that are able to go in and tell people, hey, this is not working. We need to change it. And it gets changed. But society also needs, when that system is a bit too slow, when that system isn't the fastest for a new technology or new threats or things like that, we need rapid adaptation triggers. So say something happens where there's this new technology, there's like an AI, and the AI model is rapidly changing what it means to be on the internet. Things are looking so realistic that we can't decide if it's a human who made it, if it's an AI who made it, or if it's something else entirely. We can't figure it out. We need someone who's able to trigger a rapid adaptation trigger where for a short while everyone focuses, or everyone across all sorts of different areas and regions focuses on this one central issue. And for, say, 2-3 months, they figure out exactly what their area needs to protect themselves or make themselves thrive under this new, dangerous, or potentially fruitful endeavor. We need someone who is able to just flip a switch and get everyone to focus on one subject. Now, yes, that is probably a bit foolish, but the way the system is, the way the system would work, it's possible. And I believe the system might just work, if it could. The real question is, what legacy are we building? Because we can't just build a society for the old or a society for the young. We need to build a society that supports everyone equally. Maybe not completely equally, of course, because everyone needs a little bit of more support in different areas. But over the board, I believe everyone should receive a similar level of support or equal level of support. Maybe not across every single facet, but equal amount of effort put into their lives. The next gen civic panel, where people, young adults, are sitting there and they can have a voice. They have a voice in how the country governs and how the future will be shaped. And they have the ability to put in one tier 2 mandate, something that doesn't change the entire system, but it's a national change, something that could affect the lives of young people across the board. We need civic education so that people can understand why the system is the way it is, why people need this, why it is so necessary, and why it is required for society going forward. And public mandate archives. We need a way to look back at the entirety of our past. We need to look back at the entirety of the system and see what worked, what didn't, and why it didn't work and why it didn't. So that's why we need a public library that cannot be censored by the government, because it is literally dotted around the entire country. Anyone can go in, anyone can access, anyone can educate themselves. In those sanctified areas, nobody can screw with the data. Nobody can censor data. Nobody can twist the truth, because the truth is there. There's physical and electronic copies, and the only way for it to get censored is for everyone across the country to look the opposite way and let people go in and rip out your heart. That is the only way, because it's public mandate archives. The history of the country, history of the system, the history of what worked and what didn't is all there. And you can go and look at it yourself whenever you please. There is no censoring for that. That is the truth that I want for our future, or for the future. And I don't believe that it should just be limited to Canada or America or North America. I believe that this system could revolutionize the future and make the world a better place for everyone. What kind of world should Arcadia help create? It should create a resilient world, a transparent world, a peaceful world, where everyone can look and see exactly what is being done, where the system is resilient so that even in times of crises, people can stand proud. I want a world that is peaceful, because peace, from a Sith point of view, from the Sith Code point of view, because I'm a massive Star Wars nerd, peaceful. Peace is a lie, there is only passion. That is somewhat true, because peace isn't the absence of conflict. It is the changing of conflict. In war, conflict is right out there in the open. There's physical occurring. There is emotional occurring. There is mental issues occurring. And it's all out in the open. In peace, that conflict is shifted more towards constructive things, such as advancing society's science, advancing society's views, advancing society's presence, advancing society's laws, their values, their wishes. Because peace isn't the absence of conflict, it is the constructive application of conflict. What do I want people to feel or do after watching this video? Well, I want your voice. I want you to tell me what you think about the system, to tell me your views for the future, your wishes for the past, for the present, for what we want for the future. I want your voice, because this is ours to build, not mine, ours. This is ours to build together. I might have written up the basic blueprint of it. I might have written up the system as it stands, but that's not going to be the end-all be-all of the system, because the system is evolutionary by design. It needs the voices of the people to constantly change. The will of the people will be the crucible that changes the system for the future. That is what I want. I want your feedback. I want your ideas. I want your voice. Because not only do they matter to me, they matter to the system as a whole. Because the system cannot work without your input. Because without your input, it will stagnate. It will miss parts. It will be incomplete. Because Arcadia is meant for everyone. It is meant to be the future of humanity. It is meant to be the future of society. And even if I am not able to make Arcadia a reality, in 10, 20, maybe 30 years, Arcadia will come up in one form or another, because Arcadia is just the natural evolution of democracy. I thank you for spending the time to listen to my more emotional, less scripted rant. I want the world to be a better place, and I want to make the world a better place for my children. And I want to make a world where people can be happy to bring children into it. Because right now, I don't see a world where people are happy to bring children into the world. I want a world where people are happy to have children, where people think to the future and dream and imagine and contribute in their own special way. I thank you for your time, your presence, and your energy. And I hope to hear more about this in the comments, in the likes, in the views. I want to hear your voice because it matters to me. Once again, acting very Canadian here. Thank you for your time, your presence, and your energy. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, and I do sincerely hope that Arcadia can be the future that we envision. Goodbye, and thank you.